Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome to the City Current Show, where we bring you uplifting stories of individuals and organizations making a positive impact in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're joined by Leonard Cochran, Chief Engagement Officer of UpWords Unlimited, LLC. Leonard is a seasoned leadership consultant, speaker, and author of 2 books, Relational Leadership, An Introduction, and The 4 Constants of Success. Through his work, Leonard emphasizes the importance of building genuine relationships in leadership, advocating for a shift from traditional command and control models to more empathetic and connected approaches. We'll talk about his professional endeavors, how him and his wife run Leah's House, a faith-based restoration program for women, and their commitment to personal and professional development. Leonard, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show, Andrew. I appreciate being here.
Of course. Okay. Can you first share your journey into leadership development and what inspired you to focus on relational leadership?
Sure. Yeah. So my background prior to doing this is in the corporate world. And so I spent 18 years in learning development, from anything from developing e-learning to writing content to delivering content for a little hotel company called Hilton. And so I got the bug. I've always been interested in leadership training and interested in business. And so heavily read on that type of thing, but didn't want to conflict with my day job. So about 3 years ago, I left Hilton. I already had the LLC on the side, but it was pretty dormant. UpWords Unlimited is the name of my company. And so once I left Hilton, I began to actively pursue leadership training. And then just tied together with the question about relational leadership, as I was sort of building out my website, and a gentleman worked with me, kind of, what's your mission, what's your vision, what's your values? And he threw out this term called relational leadership. And it was just really resonated with me. And when I Googled it, there were like almost no results. And we're talking Google, right?
Right.
So I saw like 3 different search results, period. And it's like, I need to know more. So I bought the college textbook. I've got it on my shelf right over here. Bought the college textbook that uses it. There was a Christian book where they used the terminology. And then there was a workshop in Texas it's called Kingdom at Work, and one of their sessions was called Relational Leadership. So I went to that workshop, and that began to immerse me into what relational leadership really is. And then I, from there, kind of took it upon myself to soften it and massage it a little bit and make it my own. And that's when I wrote the book, Relational Leadership, An Introduction.
I love that you dove in, head first when it comes to relational leadership, and you decided to invest your time and your education when it comes to really figuring out what this term means and how you can expand upon it with your expertise, especially in the field of hospitality for all those years. Why would you say that relational leadership is crucial in today's workplace?
Yeah, so in the workplace today, or at least born today, we've got 60 million Gen Zers. And so clarification of what Gen Z is, that's from 1997 to about 2012. Now, stats vary as to those age groups, but that's roughly the age group. That's the biggest group of population since the baby boomers. And so those folks are in the workplace now and continuing to enter. Alpha's right behind them. They're about 17 years and younger. And so we cannot manage them like we have past generations. Our fathers, our grandparents' generation operated a whole lot different than what we need to be operating today. And I even on my website had leadership for the 21st century. And here we are in 2025. But the necessity of meeting the needs of those individuals that are that young, so we that are maybe a little more seasoned, we can reach out and mentor and lead these younger folks. I'm a little older, so they are younger than me. So there's an opportunity to not only mentor, maybe a little bit of nurturing. It involves a little bit more than our parents' generation. So we need to lead differently. So that's one reason why I say leadership for the next generation. And then for those folks that are new into leadership, because they're coming of age where they're becoming leaders themselves or managers in their roles, in their titles at work, they need to better understand how to lead. And it's kind of this, if you're in the work world, it's kind of a lost art where, gosh, hey, Andrew, you're going to teach Leonard your job. And Andrew just, yeah, this is how we do it. But we don't get into true leadership skills, how to actually handle the people, because we all work with people. So you doing the job's not the hard part. Dealing with the people is oftentimes where the challenge is. And so I'm just convinced that relational leadership is a way to handle that.
Absolutely. Because like you said, cross training is important, but beyond cross training, not just how to do X and Y, but the why behind it,
Yes.
WHY, but then also what you can learn from it and how it just all works together. And so that's where I think relational leadership differs from that traditional leadership model, and how important it is, like you said, for this next generation, depending on which industry you're in the way that you are bringing up those that are around you. I used to always be the youngest person in the room, and now I'm not. And so it's very interesting because
That
I'm like,
happens.
wait a minute, how did this happen so fast? And so you've got these difference of opinions and even ways of efficiencies and working
Yes.
and solving problems. Can you provide an example of how relational leadership has transformed a team or organization that you've worked with?
Sure, and I always use a company in Texas as an example. There's many others. I know for myself, it's just a matter of understanding what our strengths are and working to our strengths. And you hear that quite often if you follow Marcus Buckingham or a number of other people. But it really is doing that, and you're not going to know one another's strengths if you don't have relationship with one another. So yeah, there's assessments and there's tests, but understanding how to integrate and be interdependent.
Mhm.
We talk about the need for independence, but we live in a culture now where we need to be interdependent because we do rely on expertise. Because I don't know everything about everything, I only know a measure. And so I need other folks with expertise. But there is a company in Texas, and that's where I gleaned some of this from, where they, for example, one of the things they do is they have teams. Any leadership team has 6 or less employees. That's
Mm,
going to affect your bottom line. But
yeah.
they've done that deliberately and have consciously budgeted for that. And one of the things that they do is each team lead, regardless of what title it might be, each team lead meets 1 hour a week with every member of their team. And that 1 hour isn't to say, it's not the stand up meeting before you go to work. It's not the sit down and reprimand or correct or talk about budgets or talk about productivity. It's none of those things. It's whatever that team member wants to talk about. So you can imagine sitting with a team member, and I do use the word team member deliberate. They're not just employees, they're part of
Mhm.
a team. So sitting down with a team member for 1 hour a week talking about what they want to talk about. Might be the Grizzlies game if you're from Memphis. It might be something completely different, but you're going to get to know them, what their
Mhm.
needs are, who their family is, what their interests are. All of those things, if we listen as we're communicating with them, having those conversations, and then we know statistically, those employees are going to be much more invested in the work they're doing because they have somebody that sees them, hears them, and ultimately knows they're loved by their senior leadership. And then not only does that leader do that with their team, they in turn turn around and do it with their leader. So we're talking 7 man hours a week that that leader invests in others and in their own leaders. And that's pretty much a day right there. But that company makes that investment consciously, and they've seen the results of increased productivity, increased longevity, lower turnover, as well as better service to their customers because those team members are invested in the company and the welfare of the company because the company has invested in them.
Yes, I think that's brilliant. I see that in the work at Higginbotham Insurance, the parent company of cityCURRENT. They are very much in a team leader type approach where there's sort of like cohorts of the different producers, and they have a small but mighty team of say six or so. And you see so much more humility in the work that they're doing together because they know maybe someone is just had a baby and they know that they another team member has to pick up a little bit more because they're experiencing parenthood for the first time, or you've got someone that's highly skilled in admin but then you have a creative brain, and how do you balance both of those? And I just think that there's so much more community that can be involved, and like you said, it helps with the longevity of that employee, that team member as well. And
Yes.
so that's brilliant there. Let's move a little bit to your latest book, The Four Constants of Success, which outlines key principles for organizational success. Can you briefly describe these constants?
Sure. And you really segued beautifully to it because first of all, we kind of talked about some briefly high level, the principles that are in the first book of what relational leadership is, but not just leading that way alone, but we've got to go deeper. And that depth comes, and that's what's shared in the second book that I wrote. That depth comes from real simply, first of all, conversations. And so I just shared an example there. And obviously, every business is going to have to find what's right for them. But everything begins with a conversation. We know that. We can all think in our lives where we've had a critical conversation that maybe even changed the trajectory of our lives. And then from conversations, once you and I meet, we find out we have some commonality. So now we have a connection with one another. And that's what in the workplace becomes critical. We know that team members that connect with other team members are much more committed. They're going to refer other team members to, or excuse me, other friends to come and work with them. In fact, Deloitte did a study, and we can see there's a 56% increase in job performance, 50% less turnover, 75% decrease in sick days when team members feel there's a strong sense of engagement and belonging in the workplace. So, those are some crazy high stats just for simply engaging and feeling like you belong. And that's done by having connection. And then the next step that I see after connection, we've got conversation, connection, and then now we have collaboration. So, especially if we're talking meeting somebody new, that's the pathway we follow. So, you and I meet, we hit it off, we've got some commonality. Hey, maybe we can work together on something. And so that's where we begin to collaborate and build. And we know, just common sense, I can only do so much, just as I talked about that need for interdependence earlier. I can only do so much. But when I work with somebody else, my idea and that idea that they have sparks, and we get something brand new created. And so that's where collaboration comes in. So it's not just simply co-laboring, but the sharing of ideas and working for together on things, sparking new ideas. And then lastly is community. And a lot of companies use the term culture. I choose to use the word community because we've all worked for an environment, a culture that we weren't so happy with. But with community, it implies we're participating, it implies we're engaged, and so we're active participants in what's happening there. And everyone desires to have some kind of community. We're wired that way by nature, being human beings. And then I've discovered along the way is having these four C's, the first three, conversation, connection, collaboration, where the three of those intersect, that's where community thrives. And so we have to continue and keep that cycle going continuously. And when you uncover and dig into those things, there's psychological safety. Am I safe having this conversation or not? So there's a lot that pours into each one of those kind of buckets, if you will, along the way. And that's what I unpack in the book there.
I love these guidance when it comes to how to work together in a more effective way. And so then these leaders can read this book and make it part of a book club for the employees, and then hire UpWords Unlimited to help meet the unique needs of different organizations. Talk about what services UpWords Unlimited offers.
Sure. Yeah, and to your point, Andrew, the books are really just almost teasers. They're written in real simple story format, about a 2 hour, 2.5, 3 hour read. But it outlines those principles in that story format. So you can kind of read that and get spark some ideas for what you can do for your own business or for your own team. And guess what? That carries over into the nonprofit realm, into the family realm, and other sectors as well. And then as far as services from Upwards Unlimited, absolutely. I can come in and walk you through this in a deeper level, do training with your team members or do training with your leadership teams if you'd like. Come in and do keynote speaking to address these to a larger audience. And with the background that I have, I've worked with plenty of businesses, done lots of training, thousands of people over the years. And so I certainly do that. And even do some executive counseling as well and coaching with folks that maybe are trying to implement some things and need somebody to bounce ideas off of and need some help and suggestions of ways that they can better succeed in what they're trying to accomplish.
I love that so much. And it's so needed in the workplace today with hybrid workplaces and just multi-generational teams. It
Yes.
is so needed to all be rowing the boat in the same direction. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Give us a little bit about you and your wife, Paula, amazing human beings. Our family loves y'all. We also love Leah's House, a restoration program for women. For those listening, talk just a little bit about what Leah's House is. We did interview Paula and you recently. It's been a minute, but definitely check that out. If you're listening or watching, head to citycurrent.com and type in Leah's House and you'll find it there. But give us how this initiative came about and why it's part of you and Paula's purpose in life.
Sure, yeah, and just one more plug for the book. One of the things I talk about in relational leadership is having a purpose, and so everything that I do and everything my wife and I do together, we try and have a purpose behind that. And with Leah's House, that's just a sweet spot to my wife's heart. It's a nonprofit organization that's been in existence for about 13 years, but we've been running the home for about the last 2.5. And during our time, Paula just pours into those girls, and she really does follow these relational leadership principles outlined in my first book. It was something unknowingly she had been doing. She loves people and invests in them and cares for them, creates a very family like environment for them to recover from whether it's addiction or whether it's just trauma in their lives, and helping these ladies get back on their feet and get so they can become productive members of society and be more independent than when they came in those doors. And so we've been doing that, like I say, for 2.5 years. We're going to have one more graduation next month, so that's going to be 5 people in the past 2.5 years. And there's nothing better than seeing people move towards their God-given giftings and their abilities that they have, and to see them stretch and grow. And whether it's in the learning development world, where I was in the corporate world, and now the human lives that are affected. And if you think about it, Andrew, you and I impact people every single day by what we do, whether it's in the workplace or just in social environments. And so just having that influence and guidance with those ladies and giving them another chance, but giving them the tools as well to recover and to move forward.
Yes, and you all are doing a tremendous job. My wife and I and our kids absolutely love Beth and Kristen and Kimberly, and they truly, I mean, they love them, but I also see the love that they have for my children. And as a father, there's nothing more fulfilling when you see people, chosen families that are
Yeah.
just loving on your children and giving them Christ-like curriculum and like just giving them living out their faith and their potential. It's truly an amazing thing to see. So for all those interested, please support Leah's House and learn more there. In addition to your community service, nonprofit work with Leah's House, but also professional development and such with Upwards Unlimited, talk about market ministers and how that plays into your path of purpose throughout the Mid South and beyond.
Sure, and I'm glad you asked, Andrew. Yeah, my faith is very important to me, and it's going through and writing these books, I really realize there's an opportunity where folks who are believers or Christians, followers of Christ, there's an opportunity for us to meet people in the workday every single day where maybe a pastor or a minister or some other type of religious person cannot necessarily reach them. And so I started what's called Market Ministers. We'll hopefully soon become a full-fledged nonprofit organization. But right now, it's a Friday Bible study that I do each week with other folks from the business world, whether they are self-employed by their business, own a business, rather work for other businesses, or even some retired folks come that are interested in how they can carry their faith into the marketplace in a very practical way. And then I also, through Market Ministers, do have an annual event that's called The Kingdom in the Marketplace. We've done that for 2 years now in DeSoto County, and we hope to continue to host that in Olive Branch as we move forward. And there are some rumors we might be able to be expanding before too long, but you'll have to hang on and see what happens there. But I'm excited with what's happening in the future very soon with Market Ministers.
As we wrap up, how can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your work, and purchase your books?
Sure. So both books, and I'll do a little plug here.
Yes, there we go.
Both books are available on Amazon. They're published on Amazon and available there. So you can get those there, and I'm sure we can put the link for that in the show notes. In addition, my company is UpWords, WORDS, UpWords Unlimited. And you can reach me there, upwardsunlimited.com. And I'll be glad to supply whether you want my LinkedIn account or any other information. Just feel free to reach out to me. If you've got any questions, we can certainly set up a call, just a free call, introductory call, whatever questions I can help answer for you. And love to talk to you. It really is about building those relationships because we all need each other to grow and to move forward.
Yes, amen. Well, Leonard, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us. And it's really inspiring to see your dedication to fostering relational leadership, but also empowering individuals through both professional development and community service. So, Leonard Cochran, thank you so much for coming on the show and for powering the good in our community and around the globe.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate being here.